The Tour de Suisse enters its third day today with Portugal's Rui Costa in the leader's yellow jersey in the 9-stage near 900 miles event. No Portuguese riders ever won the 76-years-old race. It's next. Hi everybody, welcome back to the Epic Cycle Series presented by Michelob Ultra. We're back with stage 3 today of the Tour of Switzerland. We were in Italy yesterday briefly. Today we're totally in Switzerland between Montigny and Aarberg, a ride of 121 miles. I'm Phil Liggett. Alongside me is Bob Roll. Bob, we have a breakaway on at the moment. But the question is, will they stay away, or is this a day for the sprinters?
Well, some of cycling's fastest men are here. Presumably they will square off on a flat stage on paper for the sprinters, but there are two little climbs that are very tough in the last 20 miles of racing.
Well, here's the man in yellow, Rui Costa. He got his first win of the year yesterday, and it was a great win at Verbier. It gave him the leader's yellow jersey. This is how it stands now. Frank Schleck pipped on the line yesterday, had to finish in second place. He's 8 seconds back. Roman Kreuziger, former winner of this race, is up to third at 15. Thibaut Pinot there in fourth place. And this is the route, Bob.
They start in Martigny. They go due north to Aarberg. After 121 miles, they will arrive in the finish. There's two pretty tough little climbs before they get there. 2 sprint points as well. One just before the second to last climb, and one just before the last climb that tops out just 6 miles before the finish.
Well, let's first of all have a look what happened at 34 miles to go today before we go to the finish and live action. The scourge of international cycling, the closed level crossing. Now, those gates were coming down, Bob. It was a feeble attempt to stop the riders, and a group has gone clear. Very
subjective rule. This is the exact wording from the UCI. It shall be strictly forbidden to cross level crossings when the barrier is down. Offending riders will be eliminated from the race. However, there is a stipulation that states any other situation shall be resolved by the commissaires. That's what's going on right now. Yep. Part of the peloton got through that. There was no chance for them to stop. And so the race referee has neutralized those riders, and these riders that were stopped behind that will be allowed to catch back up, and they will bring the whole peloton back together. That gives the advantage to the breakaway. They're still way up the road. That had no effect on them, so they don't have any idea what's going on behind until they get the message from their coaches.
So 152 they were stopped. They're all together now as we rejoin the action. Coming up to the first sprint here now. Just on that 19 miles to go to the finish. All of the action of the small climb still to come. These are the 3 leaders, and they've been away virtually from the start today. They've had a maximum lead of just over 11 minutes. They are Mikkel Morkov, the Danish rider on Saxo Bank, just at the back in the blue. Guillaume Bonneford of AG2R in the centre of these 3. And Jonas van Genechten of the Lotto Belisol team. He's setting the pace. And you can see these huge thunderclouds rolling around the hills here.
Off and on rain throughout the day's proceedings. Sun for the moment. There are some dark clouds on the horizon, though. Generally speaking, 3 men on a sprint stage after a long breakaway would have virtually no chance of staying away. But that confusion at the railroad crossing, not that far from the finish line, gives them a chance. The gap, 5 minutes, 39 seconds, with only 18 miles to go. This breakaway might stay away all the way to the finish line.
Well, that has to be considered now, as we're seeing here, Guillaume Bonneford. He's only 24, first-year pro at the front. He happens to be the best-placed rider in this breakaway, but he's lost already 9.5 minutes overall. So he's not a threat to the Portuguese leader just now. Jonas van Genechten getting second place in that sprint. And Michael Morkov there, the Dane on Saxo Bank, he is the most experienced rider here because he gave Denmark a silver medal in the 2008 Beijing Olympics on the track in the team pursuit. He's a pretty good track rider. Now, not surprisingly, Bob, we're seeing the sprinters teams try to whip this up, and that'll give Rui Costa a little bit of a rest here.
Third wheel, Ted King, the American on the Italian Liquigas squad. They have on their team perhaps the hottest sprinter of the moment in cycling, Peter Sagan. If they can bring this break back in, Sagan stands a great chance to win. A number of other fast sprinters. Tom Bonin is in the field, and another American, Tyler Farah, also in the field with a good chance to win the stage. But they've got a lot of work to do in the last miles of this race to catch a breakaway that was given a big advantage throughout the stage. They got up to 11 minutes at one point, and that gap has not come down. Less than 30 Ks to go, 29 kilometers to go, or about 17 and a half miles.
Well, you know, they gave them a big lead here over 11 minutes, and now they're going to have to work very hard to bring it back. Now, Peter Sagan, who's in here, he showed us what he could do in the time trial on the opening day of this race. But as we know from his escapades in the Amgen Tour of California, Bob, he won 5 stages there, only beaten in the hilly sections of the race.
Only beat on a couple of stages on the high mountains of Mount Baldy and by a breakaway to Big Bear. Third wheel, Tim Duggan, most recently crowned U.S. road racing champion after a storming ride in South Carolina.
Well deserved, wasn't it?
One solo. It was a beautiful win for Tim Duggan.
It was well deserved. He showed great form in the Amgen Tour of California as a workhorse for his Italian Liquigas Cannondale team, and he's doing it again now, possibly in favour of Sagan today. If they can bridge a gap of 5 minutes and 13 seconds, it is coming down, but you know, 18 miles or so to get through to the finishing line. They're going to rely very heavily on these last 2 climbs to accelerate and hope that those guys up front are losing a little bit of strength after a long day ahead.
And it'll be a long chase still to catch the riders in the front. If they do come to the finish line together, the breakaway, you got to give the advantage to Morkov, world champion on the track, Olympic silver medalist, a very speedy finisher. Finished second in the stage in the Tour of Colorado last year. To a rider that's here, and that is Elia Viviani, also in the field for the Liquigas Cannondale squad. A lot of very fast man in the finish, but they got to catch this break if they're going to have a chance for the stage win.
And the roads are wet, but the sun is back out now as we dip inside 5 minutes to those leaders. Ben Swift is another candidate on Team Sky. They had a tremendously successful Dauphiné. Now, can they do the same here and possibly take it out? If it is to be a sprinter's day today, we have some great sprinters in this race. One we know all about is Peter Sagan. But what about the fast American as well, Tyler Farah? He'll be looking for victory too. We'll see in a moment. Well, we're back with the action now, and the 3 riders on this 3rd day of the Tour de Suisse are still hanging on, Bob. 27 kilometres to go, it's about 16.5 miles, and the gap down to 4 minutes.
The strain starting to show now on the faces of the men in the breakaway. That's Guillaume Bonifond. He's the AG2R rider. Michael Morkov is the Danish man on Saxo Bank, and Jonas Van Echten is the Lotto rider. And this is where the riders are, the green arrow there, the green line through the map. That's getting near the top of the Cat 3, and now it is Van Echtenen. He's in trouble now, being dropped by his companions from the breakaway on this Cat 3 climb.
Well, the Belgian rider on the Lotto team is falling back here, leaving just 2 men to go forward. Now, this isn't a terribly long climb. It is given a 3rd category tag, so the first 4 riders over the top get points in the King of the Mountains, which incidentally, after yesterday, is being led by Frank Schleck.
That might spell doom for this breakaway. You want all 3 riders, still a ways to go, 27 kilometers, about 16 miles. You want all 3 riders still to be in decent form and fitness and shape to get through this finale of the bike race together. But with just 2, that makes it a little bit more difficult to stay away from the peloton.
Rider blue there, the Saxo Bank rider, and that is Michael Morkov, better known as a track cyclist. He never won a professional race, but he is a very strong rider. Now, back to the peloton, and this is the Sky team, Bob. Clearly, they have an interest here. If they can bring back this breakaway, they could possibly deliver Ben Swift to the line first.
Swifty, a fast man indeed, stage winner at the Tour of California in last year's race. He has a good chance in the sprint if they do finish. Team Sky dominated the proceedings at the Dauphiné. Edvald Boasson Hagen won a stage, and Bradley Wiggins, of course, dominating the time trial and winning the overall title. When one rider on your team is so successful, a lot of times it helps the motivation and morale of the teammates, no matter where they're racing in the world. Team Sky here on the front, doing a big tempo there, trying to deliver the race, bring it back together, give Ben Swift, their sprinter, a chance for the stage win.
Well, just seen Tim Duggan go through there in his brand new American Road Race Championship jersey, and he's still the workhorse for Peter Sagan, the sprinter. He's trying to close this breakaway down. They're approaching the summit of the climb now, about 300 or 400 yards to go to the top, and we're down to 3.5 minutes.
3.5 minutes the gap. 15 miles before the finish. Just in the distance, you can see that green banner going across the road. That will be the top of this climb. There's a sprint point after they do the descent for a little bit of time bonification. Also, that's 3 seconds for the first man through there. 6 points towards the points leader's jersey. And then there is another climb before the finish. That gap, every time they do about 10 pedal strokes, they lose 3 or 4 seconds of their lead. The gap is really coming down precipitously right now.
I think they're really unfortunate. Seeing in the back here, we're just looking at Stephen Cummings on the back there for Team BMC. In the red and black, number 87 he is. But today we've just heard the announcement that George Hincapie, the grand veteran of Team BMC, has announced that this will be his last season, and we'll all be sad to see George retire. Comes to us all, I guess, Bob, but he's going to go out. Probably his last ride will be the USA Pro Challenge.
Time does march on. He will leave a massive hole in the sport. Doesn't plan to retire until he does his 17th Tour de France that starts June 30th, and that would be an outright record for participation.
It would and might last forever, if you ask me, Bob. Anyway, over the top of the climb, Michael Morkov, no challenge here. He goes over the top, and Bonneford follows him through. Van Genekten must be getting back halfway towards that bunch coming up the mountain now. They've still got a chance. You know, if this breakaway had been running in on flatter roads, I would say they couldn't bridge 317, but I'm not convinced now.
Well, those two hills and this bad weather really affecting the progress of the breakaway. Coming back within 20, they had 2 minutes just about 5 kilometers ago, and the gap is coming really down. It's unbelievable how fast the peloton can go sometimes, especially towards a breakaway that is faltering a little bit. They've already split one guy off the back and having a very tough time staying in front of this peloton.
You get some idea. The roads are drying out. The riders at the back of this race are really suffering to hang on to the tail end of this peloton. It's been a tough day nonetheless, and look at that flag too. That has been helping him up the climb a little bit. Now, you could say that this guy's going nowhere today as he watches the riders go by, and they'll tip down a little bit. It's not the end of the climb, so there's another sprint, and then we will make a final climb just 6 miles out from the finish at 3 minutes and 12 seconds as they go over the top. This race still is not done for, and Liquigas Cannondale really feel as though they can do. It looks like, in fact, we're seeing Moreno Moser there at the front.
Made a huge splash in the opening time trial here at the Tour of Switzerland. He led the proceedings until the very end when Fabian Cancellara got the better of him, and then Peter Sagan. But all the way throughout the day's proceedings, a great ride by this young professional Moreno Moser from the Italian Liquigas squad. Actually, the nephew of one of the greatest Italian cyclists of all time, Francesco Moser.
Well, he's also having a tremendous team race this year, is Moser, and I think he might be following in the wheel tracks of his famous uncle. He's only 21 and a half years of age.
A couple of solid wins already on the season, including the Grand Prix Frankfurt. That's a great win for anybody. A young man is slightly off the front of the field. That's a strange way to make tempo, actually.
Yeah, well, I think, stop laughing, Bob. I think maybe he's still only young. Let's give him some credit. I don't really know why he's doing this. I think he's trying to draw out the race because, remember, he's on the team of Sagan, and he wants this race to continue with a full-on chase. And he's certainly looking very, very determined here. Lovely views over into the depth of Switzerland there. 3 minutes and 8 seconds. The damage is still being held. He's 61 seconds behind the leader overall. And I don't think Costa is going to allow him to get too much out of sight today.
Well, this man had a good opening time trial, also solid on the stage 1 to Verbier. He finds himself in the top 20 in the overall standing, so very versatile riding so far in the Tour of Switzerland for this man, Moreno Moser. Now he's looked over his shoulder. I was going to see if I could yell loud enough for him to hear me. Say, hey, you got to wait for your teammates if you're going to do tempo at the front of the peloton.
Well, they started to kick in again now. We're into the undulations as we approach Aarberg. The riders have been through the finish line, by the way. They went through 25 miles from the finish. And at that stage, the 3 leaders went through with an advantage of 7 minutes and 36 seconds. But now we're 15 miles out from home. The gap has come down. And a little bit of common sense there from Moser, who goes over the top in 4th place on the climb as they all come around him again. The green jersey at the back there is Schleck, the king of the mountains, but he didn't score any points at all. He'll wait perhaps for tougher days which still lie ahead in this year's Tour de Suisse. With a gap of 3:03, it's still fast. On Saturday, June the 30th, the NBC Sports Network begins coverage of the Tour de France, cycling's most prestigious event. The Tour de France begins Saturday, June 30th on the NBC Sports Network. We're now back with the action here, and that's what it is now, because the peloton have got the leaders down to 2 minutes and 52 seconds, and they're 12 miles out.
Well, this is hovering now on the magic number of 1 minute per 10 kilometers for a breakaway. In modern cycling, however, with the race radios, I think we have to increase that. Maybe a minute and a half would be a more accurate measure of whether or not the breakaway will get caught, and that would put them getting caught within sight of the finish line. 2 minutes and 51 seconds lead with 20 kilometers to go, about 12 miles left of racing.
Looking here, Fabian Cancellara, Team Radio Shack, runner-up in the time trial, surprisingly that. Been named today as one of 14 riders pre-selected for the Tour de France by the Radio Shack Nissan Trek team. And surprisingly, Chris Horner is not among those 14 riders.
Well, Chris Horner, maybe they just forgot one name to put on the roster. Time will tell, but Chris Horner has been after the Tour of California, back in the States, training specifically for the Tour de France. That'll be a big disappointment for Chris Horner. Last year, crashing out and desperately wanting to finish off the Tour de France before he retires from the sport of cycling.
Well, we're just checking in on the back of the peloton here now. Still rain on the lens of our cameras, blowing in the wind just now because the roads are drying up quite nicely. Look at the length of that line, Bob. The pressure has gone on here to bring this race back. It is coming back second by second, but with only 11.5 miles to go, are they coming back quick enough?
Time will tell. There's a hornet's nest right at the front of the peloton. Indian file throughout this long line of riders trailing, trying to get back on terms. Yellow jersey doesn't seem to be in too much trouble at all. That is Rui Costa right in the middle of your screen on the shoulder of Fabian Cancellara. That's a great wheel to follow. Fabian Cancellara, very steady, also very wide. He makes a great aerodynamic draft behind him, and the Schleck brothers have loved following Fabian Cancellara the last couple of seasons in all the big bike races across the world.
And especially this one, because he's racing on home territory today. He literally lives in this area, and he's hoping, he said, surely it won't rain when it passes through my region of Switzerland. Well, so far, he's been wrong, but it does look as though it's clearing up for the finish. These are the two leaders. Now we're down to 18 kilometres, just over 10 miles to the finish, and this is the second sprint of the day. They carry small time bonuses, but frankly, for these two guys, seconds isn't good enough. They need minutes over the field today.
That man, Guillaume Bonafont, he has the best placing amongst the breakaway riders, but a massive 9 minutes and 30 seconds behind the race leader, Rui Costa, because the first day of the Tour de Switzerland out on the open roads after the time trial finished on top of a big mountain in Verbier. So huge gaps throughout the field of all the riders besides the top 10 men. Big time gaps throughout the field because of that King of the Mountain giant climb to the finish of yesterday's stage.
Walkoff really could do with getting a result for Team Saxo Bank, the team of Bjarne Riis here. They're not having a great season yet. There's the latest check, 2 minutes 34, they're saying, 3 seconds less than what we have on our GPS here. Walkoff, an ex-track rider, he got a silver medal in Beijing, and he won a world title in 2009 as well, but on the track, not the road. Now, Team Sky clearly have a lot of faith in Ben Swift for the sprint win today. First, they've got a problem of bridging a 2.5 minute gap to those leaders, and we're coming down to 10 miles to go.
Team Sky, one of the most successful teams in the world so far this season, and Bradley Wiggins just delivered another huge result for them, winning the Dauphiné that finished yesterday. Dominating performance by Wiggins. He never faltered, neither did his team. His team was absolutely spectacular throughout the week of the Dauphiné, and here they are back on the field, front of the field again, just over the border in Switzerland. Team Sky, one of the best teams in all of cycling. They get results throughout the race season.
Well, good on Sky, because they had a wonderful Dauphiné, didn't they, with 3 riders in the top 4. Ben Swift hasn't won a race this year yet. He came close in the recent Tour of Luxembourg with a sprint in the second place sprint. And when he did win the bunch sprint, there was a rider broken away, so it wasn't his lucky day. But today, maybe. But still, that gap, Bob, for me, isn't coming down anything like quick enough. We've only got the small climb left, which comes with 6 miles to go. And that's only a 4th category climb. So they really need to be very, very close indeed to those 2 leaders if they are going to make it to the finish as a bunch sprint. There's the gap. We are now inside at 2.5 minutes. The sprinters still won't have that much faith in resulting. And down there, number 21, that is Peter Sagan. He's wearing the jersey as the points leader of the race. And boy, if he wins today, he would get a clear lead in that competition. 2:29 the gap. Tomorrow, the Epic Cycle Series, presented by Michelob Ultra, continues with the fourth stage of the Tour de Suisse. And that's tomorrow at 5 Eastern on the NBC Sports Network. But for the moment, the peloton here are still preoccupied about what to do with the two survivors of the day-long breakaway. Here they are. It's heading up to 2 minutes, Bob, but it's also only 9 miles from the finish.
That's a handy lead now with 15 kilometers to go in the bike race. 2 minutes and 4 seconds. They do have to get themselves over this one last climb. The descent might help them to stay away if they can get over the climb with a minute and a half or closer to 2 minutes. But that will be a question of whether how much energy they have left. Desperation now into the legs of the 2 men in the breakaway. What do they have left? They do have a descent. That will give them a slight advantage getting to the finish line before the peloton.
But you've got 2 riders clear, Bob. The gap is just on 2 minutes. It's a very tortuous approach to the line. It would be really exciting if it was a bunch sprint. There's the result of the sprint there in Usseligen. Do you think they can stay away, really?
There is a very good chance that I'm reluctant to say yes because the breakaway almost always gets caught.
Yeah.
99 times out of 100 they get caught. When the sprinters teams have them in their sight, they do exactly what is needed. Sometimes they don't catch them before the last 1 kilometer of the bike race, but somehow they find a way to always catch them. This might be the one time that we've seen recently, in my memory anyways, that the breakaway does succeed in a pure sprint situation like this, when the whole peloton is chasing and only 2 men are off the front. Slim margin now, and that gap just absolutely is being destroyed every few pedal strokes. Bam, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds. There is Bonnefond. He was in the breakaway earlier. He's been dropped, and he is, Van Echtenen, the Belgian rider that was in the breakaway. He's been dropped, and he's probably just in front of the peloton now.
Good spot. That's exactly where he is, and I think the peloton now are going too quickly. We'll see. Those 2 riders up front have never won a professional race, and I've got a feeling today is not going to be the day that they start, but we'll see. 1 minute and 51 is the group here, the yellow jersey, safely in this group. If it comes down to a group sprint, he's just got to keep an eye on Frank Schleck. There are small time bonuses at the finish. If the sprinters get those bonuses, then it'll be another good day out for Rui Costa. He will keep his race lead. But that's all up in the air just now, 13 kilometers out. And now the gap is 1 minute 3/4, and it is Peter Sagan's Liquigas team who bring the train past the unlucky Jonas Van Genechten, who's been caught.
Liquigas Cannondale on the front of the bike race. This is a great pursuit here. Timmy Duggan coming through now. Had an absolutely spectacular Tour of California in the support of Peter Sagan, the sprinter from his team, Liquigas Cannondale. And Timmy Duggan followed that momentum through to the U.S. Pro Championships, where he won that title. First title in his career, but what a great win it was. And he still has some strength left to do this chase down of the breakaway.
Well, we're looking here, the scars from a crash with 45 miles to go today of Lars Petter Nordhog on the Sky team, the Norwegian rider. He's bravely got up, caught up the field, and now doing his job at the front. Pretty
amazing riding here by Nordhog. He's coming to the front, doing the tempo at the front of the peloton, even though he's been bandaged and he's cut still, bleeding from the elbow in the finale of the bike race, but that has not stopped him from doing his team job in the support of Ben Swift, the sprinter for the Sky team here at the Tour of Switzerland.
Interesting to note, too, a rider going through there from the Garmin Barracuda team, because let's not forget, Bob, they've got the American Tyler Farrar, who would like to show us his sprint is coming to the fore, ready for the upcoming Tour de France.
Michael Barry, also from Canada, his countryman, Ryder Hagedal, recently winning the Giro d'Italia, first Canadian ever to win a Grand Tour. Great result for the Garmin Barracuda squad as well.
Now we're about 3 kilometers from the top of this 4th category climb now, as they race at quite high speed. Looks like the leaders are going to make it ahead of the peloton, at least, because they're still holding the best part of 90 seconds advantage. But the peloton has really concentrated. 3 teams at the front right now. Liquigas Cannondale, the Sky team, a little bit of intrusion from the Garmin. Now that is a little bit tricky. They managed to get around the inside of the roadworks there. I don't know how they spot these things. But they're all round safely. That's what's important.
Miracle, no riders crashed on that. Just coming right out in the middle of the road. There's some roadworks that presumably somebody was marking them for the peloton, but riders having to go left and right, following them in and filled. The gap coming down to 1:20 think in 5 kilometers, they've lost 40 seconds of their advantage. I'm going to have to say now the breakaway is going to get caught. It's too close and with too far to go for before the finish line for the breakaway, and the peloton too close at just a minute and 17 now.
Yeah, it is looking very, very tough now. This is a Morkov in the lead, the Dane. He must be knowing that it's touch and go now. Bonifant has given his best all day. He always looks under pressure, this youngster, and he is a youngster too. And they're trying just to hold them off. If they can just get to the top of this 4th category climb, then it's 6 miles down towards the finish in Aarberg. 1:15 the gap now. 12 kilometers to go. We're 2 kilometers from the top of the hill.
There is that climb right there, and has to be these last 2 climbs that have undone the peloton. Before the category 3 just a little while ago, they had a 5+ minute advantage. Now that's down to 1:13. The 2 climbs have been the undoing of the breakaway. If it were flat roads to the finishing town, they might have had a better chance, but the peloton can almost see them now just over the horizon.
Yes, and the dry roads too, which will make the riders now take a little bit more of a risk as they try to bring back those. You saw from the relationship from the helicopter there, they are literally just around the corner, and they're going to be a minute before they're over the top of this hill. They are closing quickly now.
Well, the Sky team announcing their intentions at the front of the peloton, leading the group for their sprinter Ben Swift. But look at the Astana squad coming through the screen there moments ago. Their sprinter Jacopo Guarnieri, a very fast man. He's won a stage of 3 days of Dapana in his career. A young Italian sprinter trying to impress everybody here on the road to Switzerland. He's in for a chance as well. That gap now 1:02, 11 kilometers ago. We've reached the magic number, and 2 men against 158 very rarely succeed.
Well, the only prize left on the road now is for the winner today, and the gap is inside the minute. So the tails are up now in the peloton, especially with the team helpers here. Their job is simple: drive at the front, another nasty turn here, 1 or 2 riders going the long way round, and try and bring their sprinters down. Now, Bob, if they do pick up these 2 riders, the run into the finishing line is very, very tortuous.
Lots of twists and turns, dangerous city streets. We see all kinds of mayhem in the sprint finishes. 49 seconds. There's the king of the mountain points. This is the last climb of the day. There is a descent now. If it was steep, twisty, turny, and coming off of a mountain for 6 kilometers, well, the breakaway would stand a very good chance. But we will get into the city streets of Aarberg, and the peloton, I'm sure, will be licking their chops for a sprint finish now. 10 kilometers to go, and the gap is under a minute at 47 seconds. And
it's Bonifant who gets down ahead of Morkov. They're just sharing the prizes out on the course. They're really friends here to try and hold off the peloton. This is never good news. The camera pulls back, and there they are, about 44 seconds, probably less than that right now for the peloton. So they know they're going to close in, and they've left themselves just on 10 kilometers or 6 miles to do it.
Green Edge rolling towards the front. Very successful season for them. Seems that control has been given to the Liquigas Cannondale squad and Sky, and those are 2 very powerful formations. When they get their riders motivated and motivating at the front of the peloton, very tough for anybody to stay away. Also, Garmin coming into the mix also. So Tyler Farah, he's a rider who's won a stage of the Tour de France in his career before. Their fast sprinter looking for some glory on today's stage.
Well, Orica Green Edge, they're heading to the first Australian team to be in the Tour de France. They could do with getting a good result here as well. And I would think they're working today for Baden Cook. He's their sprinter. Now Alex Howes on the front here. The 24-year-old from Golden in Colorado. Finished 38th in the Amgen Tour, and he's looking very strong there. Working very, very hard, of course, for Tyler Farah. 32 seconds, Bob, and they're still showing 10 kilometers on the GPS. It must be 9 now.
Alex Howes, a top talent and young future hopeful, very versatile bike racer. He's won the Queen Stage in the mountains of the Tour of Utah, like you said. Also the National Under-23 Criterium champion, so able to sprint and climb. Very rare bird indeed. Alex Howes, very strong raider, right in the front of the peloton, putting in the damage to the breakaway. 9Ks, 28-second advantage. I don't think they're going to make it today.
Well, it can't happen now. 28 seconds away and just over 5 miles to race. They've been in the lead virtually the whole day. There were 3, there are now 2, and very shortly, I reckon there'll be 160. The whole field of the Tour de Suisse will be racing down to the finish. This could pose a big problem because it is quite a tortuous finish. There's the result of the mountain. It doesn't make a lot of change to the overall. Frank Schleck will again lead that competition tonight. There's the peloton, and they are flying now. Gorman, Barracuda, Sky, Liquigas, Cannondale, they all want the win. We'll be there shortly. We're back with the Tour de Suisse, and the cavalry are massing now. They're just over 5 miles out from the finish in Aarberg, and the gap is 22 seconds.
That's a very tight margin for the men in front. They've been there throughout the day's race. They can almost smell the finishing line, and the hot dogs are cooking now. The barbecues are out in Switzerland. So is the sun. Fabian Cancellara predicted it would be sunny in his region of Switzerland. He's right about that. But the breakaway now holding on to a tiny margin. There's no way they can hold off the charging peloton.
But while we look at the peloton going through, now earlier I told you that Chris Horner was not pre-selected on a list issued by the Radio Shack Nissan Trek team earlier today. And the team now tell us that Chris Horner has an injured back and will not be riding the Tour de France, which seems a little bit strange because last week he did 600 miles and said he was ready. So that's an updated story for you, and we'll tell you more as the week unrolls. 7 kilometers to go, 22 seconds, and look at this now, Team Movistar also contributing.
Movistar, this is a maneuver to keep their race leader Rui Costa out of danger. We've seen how dangerous the sprints are. They feature oftentimes incredible crashes, so what you want to do is keep your race leader out of danger, and the best way to do that is go to the front. They do have a fast sprinter, JJ Rojas, who was mixing in a lot of the sprint stages in the Tour de France last summer, but everybody will be dedicated to Rui Costa and keeping him out of danger and keeping him near the front. That's why they're doing the work here at the front. You will see them at the front of the peloton, but mostly that's to keep their team leader Rui Costa out of danger.
Well, they're absolutely flying now, just under 50 miles an hour. The speedometer was saying there as they headed in. It's still the Liquigas Cannondale boys. They'll be looking for the light blue jersey of Peter Sagan coming through at the finish. He won the first stage, but that was a time trial, and we all know what he did in the Amgen Tour of California a few weeks ago, but he got 5 stage wins. These are the 2 leaders. You've got to feel sorry for them, Bob. They're still 3.5 miles out, inside 20 seconds, and they've been up front by out as much as over 11 minutes today.
And you can see the difference in the speed between the 2 groups, 2 men in front, and this is the peloton. That is an angry mass coming towards the finishing town of Aarberg and making an unbelievable tempo at the moment.
Well, every cloud has a silver lining, except for these 2 leaders, I think. Right now, 16 seconds, the gap, 6 kilometers to go, 3.5 miles left to the finish. In the center of our picture and the peloton there, the yellow jersey of Rui Costa. He'll keep that jersey now because I don't think anybody can touch him. They haven't got the time back on him today. He'll be in yellow again tomorrow.
A couple of blue and pink jerseys from the Lamprey squad moving towards the front. They do have one of the fastest sprinters in the world, Alessandro Patacchi, in their midst, and they are trying to keep him in position, perhaps for a chance at the stage win.
2 riders, a couple of motorbikes and a team car, where the order's now gone out to go ahead of the race, which means the gap is now just on 14 seconds and going down. The drying roads here are going to make this a most interesting sprint finish because there are some pretty good sprinters in this year's Tour de Suisse.
You got to put Tom Bonin at the top of the list, along with Peter Sagan, Alessandro Patacchi, and of course the American Tyler Farah hasn't won this year a race, so he'll be hungry for a win leading into the Tour de France, where he won a stage last year on the 4th of July, the first American to ever do that in the history of the Tour de France.
I'll add also the names of Ben Swift from Sky, because Sky have done a lot of work, and the Olica Green Edge sprinter has to be Baden Cook today, who has been sprinting pretty well this year. He seems to be a little bit of a renaissance for Baden Cook, who will hope to make the team in the Tour de France. Former green jersey winner, by the way, of the Tour de France. And the other sprinter there is Alan Davies, the Queenslander. Well, the peloton now have got to be very vigilant here, because these corners will switch left, switch right. The roads are still damp, and they've got to stay very, very sharp.
The rain was falling just a little while ago, so you have a little bit of some wet roads. That can make some very dangerous conditions. Garmin's come to the front to lead out their man, Tyler Farah. Also, the riders in the pink and blue of Alessandro Pasacchi. Peter Sagan, just saw him there in the first 10 riders. So Peter Sagan, what has happened to his teammates from Cannondale, however, they might have had to do too much work to catch the breakaway and might not be able to help in the sprint finish and do the lead out.
10 seconds the gap, 4 kilometers from the finish, 2.5 miles to go. They top a little rise, and William Bonifant here, Guillaume Bonifant, looks over his shoulder, and he knows they're coming now. He's not going to hold these off. This is the Garmin Barracuda boys for Tyler Farrer, who are driving now. The Lamprey boys in those pinkish jerseys are riding probably for Alessandro Patacchi. All of the sprinters want a result now.
Sprinters are licking their chops, sharpening their knives. Here's the twists and turns before the finish in Aarberg. These are some dangerous corners in perfect conditions, but we do have some water out on the course, so very good attention has to be paid by any of the riders that don't want to go down before the sprint finish.
Oh, that's a tight one, because under the shade of the trees there, that road is still grease lightning down there, drying a little bit on the inside, and the peloton, you can see, cautious at the moment as they start to continue. This is a very tricky descent into the finish here. Now, Tyler Farrer's put his team right on the front because he hasn't won a race this year yet. He's only won part of it being in a team in the team time trials. Individually, sprinters do not like to go to the Tour de France with no wins under the belt. These are desperate moments now. Morkel is just trying to drag Bonifant to the finish. 7 seconds the gap, Bob. It's going to be a bunch sprint.
I don't know about that, Morkov.
You won't give up, but you won't believe me.
I would believe you 99% of the time, but Morkov really dedicated now to the chances of this breakaway. He's been driving it for the last few kilometers. 7 seconds, 2 kilometers, just over a mile. They might not catch these riders until the last couple of 100 meters left.
Just looking at the way these riders are trying to move in now, because I can see Peter Sagan has moved right up towards the front of this group. He's in a different colour to his team jersey because he is the lead of this race on points. So it's a much lighter jersey than his team jersey. 8 seconds, they're holding on. There's hesitation from the bunch now because they're starting to look at each other. Oh, and look at this now. That's never 8 seconds as they start to spread across the road. It's very, very dangerous now. These conditions are really slippery.
It could go down to the lead out. Where's the Cannondale man of Peter Sagan? Peter Sagan, presumably ready, won the opening time trial, also 2 sprints yesterday. He's got to be considered, if not the fastest, one of the fastest men in the field
today. Can you believe it, Bob? 1 kilometre to go. We're looking at about 100 metres between the two groups after a whole day of racing out front by minutes. The peloton seem to have timed it together, but this now is the Orica Green Edge team trying to whip it up. The road continues to twist and turn all the way up to the line here. That's Orica Green Edge launching an attack from the front now as they go for the line. Now that's Baden Cook in his second wheel, and that's a tight corner there. And they've wiped out the 2 leaders in what? The last 500 metres of the day. And this is a lead out now for Baden Cook as they grit their teeth coming up towards the line. The Astana squad are trying to get on. That'll be for Giacomo Guiarini, who is in 4th place in the line now. Where is Peter Sagan? I don't see him. He's tucked in. He's tucked in. He's on the left of our picture in 3rd position. He's looking for the finish now as they break for the line. We've got Farrer going round the corner and a speed wobble for Tyler Farrer. Look at this now because Sagan pulled his foot off the wheel as he come off that bend. 200 metres. I can't believe you get a left-hand bend like that at 200 metres out. And he looks as though Baden Cook is leading towards the line here. 50 metres go, another silly bend before the line, and it looks to me as though Sagan gets it.
Peter Sagan in the last moment coming around Baden Cook. Twists and turns throughout this very narrow and dangerous finishing line. There's our race leader, Rui Costa, going through the line. Unbelievable finish. How did Sagan come around in the last 50 meters of the bike race? Here's the rest of the field noodling in. Great sprint by Peter Sagan. He tried to get around. He had the speed, but he had to keep waiting for Baden Cook, and he just was able to do that.
Have you ever seen a ridiculous finish like that for a sprint?
The sprint generally, the straighter, the more wide open, the better, and safer especially. That was a little bit outrageous for the organizers of the Tour of Switzerland here on stage number 3 in Aarberg to ask the riders to negotiate all of those corners. Peter Sagan, what an incredibly talented bike racer he is.
Well, I take my hat off to the professionals. It's amazing they did crash. There's the arrival of Michael Morkel, the hero of the day, with Guillaume Bonifant. But the other hero is the victory by the man in the centre there, number 21, Peter Sagan, because that's his 10th win of the year. And he's right up amongst the top 2 or 3 riders as far as victories go now. Take a look at this, Bob, and tell me it's not dangerous.
Very dangerous. A great lead out by the Orica Green Edge squad for Baden Cook. Just not quite quick enough to get around that man. Very pleased to win his 2nd stage already of the Tour of Switzerland, but he had to take a lot of chances to do that because of those twists and turns, dangerous corners before the finish line.
And the riders now going off through a tunnel here, can you believe, as they head down towards the podium where we'll go very shortly. But that's another typical example of Peter Sagan, who is preparing for the Tour de France. And I have to say, his preparation is going rather well, isn't it? It'll be his first Tour de France when he gets there in July. There's the result. Peter Sagan, he won stage 1, which was a time trial. Now he wins here stage 3. Baden Cook narrowly beaten. He'd be very upset about that. He needed that win, I think, Baden Cook, in second. Ben Swift there was in 3rd place, with Jacopo Guarnieri in 4th place there. Tyler Farrar, well, we saw him bottle out on that left-hander, and he slipped away to finish only 8th.
It's not 100% pure sprinter stage today because a slight uphill and some twists and turns. If the road was straight and flat, Farrar would have had a little bit better chance, but this is the perfect finish for that man that won, Peter Sagan.
Rui Costa keeps yellow. We'll be back with the podium 5. Well, we're just in a remarkable sprint finish by Peter Sagan. He ripped his foot off the pedal. He still got through to the finishing line. There he is, Bob, his 10th win of the season.
Speed, endurance, and courage generally win the sprints, but agility also for Peter Sagan. What a great bike handler it is. If you clip out when you're sprinting flat out for the line, generally what happens next, you hit the deck. But Peter Sagan was able to hold it up, reclip, and win the sprint in front of Baden Cook. Great ride by the young man, Peter Sagan.
And he really is a young man as well. Well, let's have a look then at our Road ID ride of the day, and who else could it be but the man who won?
None other is more deserving than this on today's stage. Here we go, 2 corners to go. There he's clipped out, finds the pedal again in the next pedal stroke. Barely misses the beat, but he does open a little bit of the gap to Baden Cook, but he wins the stage anyways. Incredible ride by Sagan.
He's our Road ID ride of the day. Let's have a look at confirmation now of the overall situation here. Rui Costa is still the leader. It's no change, in fact. In the end, they all came in together. Frank Schleck sits at 8 seconds. Kreuziger, former winner, also there in 3rd place. Looking a little bit further down, Alejandro Valverde is 7th, and the top 10 completed here by Tom Danielson. But, you know, there's still plenty of room for improvement amongst this overall leaderboard, including the top American who won this race in 2011, Levi Leipheimer. He's in there in 13th place, so there's plenty of room there too for him. But for the moment, at least, the Portuguese rider Rui Costa has got the maillot jaune.
They led it for a long ways out to get to the finish line with the breakaway almost succeeding, but in the end, Movistar didn't have to do too much work. The sprinter teams came to the front, brought the breakaway back in, and Rui Costa defended that jersey for the day, the first day out on the open roads, having the leader's jersey in the Tour of Switzerland for Rui Costa. Good, steady ride for the man from Portugal.
Portugal doesn't boast too many top riders on the international stage, but when they come, they're good. This is the King of the Mountains classification. Schleck keeps his lead. He gained in Verbier yesterday. Ryan Anderson on a long break yesterday, equal there on 20 points with him. But for Frank Schleck, and one has to say, Bob, he's doing a little bit better than his brother Andy right now.
Well, he had a big return of form on yesterday's stage, launching a savage attack with 6 kilometers to go. He was caught just 150 meters from the line, but a resurge right now for Frank Schleck just at the right time.
Well, there's the situation in the points. You get maximum points when you win the stage. Sagan now has won 2. He's got 52 points. Baden Cook comes in at 2nd place there with 20. But there is Peter Sagan, looking good. Looks like he's got a bad dose of the measles.
And we'll see. Measles, yes. We'll see how he does in the sprints in the Tour de France. That will be very intriguing when he locks horns with Mark Cavendish and Andre Greipel.
Whoa, we can't wait. And remember, the Epic Cycle Series presented by Michelob Ultra continues with the 4th stage tomorrow of the Tour de Suisse. It's a fairly flattish route as well. It could be another chance for Peter Sagan. 5 Eastern right here on the NBC Sports Network. And don't forget to, for all details, go to NBCSports.com. Well, this has been a great day of racing. They almost made it, didn't they? But they didn't quite. Sagan wins. For Bob Roll, I'm Phil Liggett. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.